Darius Garland is a 2022 All-Star Reserve. What's going on, everybody? You're on board with the Cavs Encapsulated crew. We're live here right after the All-Star Reserves have been announced for the Eastern and Western Conference teams. We have some interesting things to talk about. Thankfully, Darius Garland was voted, named to be an all-star reserve for the Eastern Conference. I'm going straight over to Justin. It's his boy. It's his guy. He's been riding with them forever. So while I do the administrative stuff, he's going to rant really quickly. Really long.
Well. Here we are. All-star Gar.
Just like you predicted.
I don't think at the top of the season I did predict this. I'll be honest. I don't think I had high expectations for any singular player. I think if you were to put the bet on it, it was for definitely Garland to be that guy. But at the end of the day, it's kind of just reminiscent of this whole team and just how we've done all year, where guys have exceeded expectations and this team has exceeded expectations. And so Garland being able to get the nod, even after missing a couple of games here recently, fantastic. Unfortunately, I'm sure we'll talk about this and we'll definitely get into it. Jarrett Allen not getting named to the All-Star game. As of right now, there could be he could replace someone potentially, but it's just good to have someone represent Cleveland in Cleveland for the All-Star game. And he's the first All-Star since LeBron James left back in 2016-2017 season. Just a phenomenal nod to him, and obviously a lot to get into with just what this means for him, what this means for the team, and moving forward. So, Logan, obviously, you and I know that it's been a long time since we could celebrate an all-star here. And while Jeff is trying to do his administrative stuff, just talk to us a little bit about how Garland being an all-star kind of just impacts the outlook for Cleveland in general.
It's well-deserved, guys. All-star Gar. I mean, we talked about him all season and his impact, but I think to me it solidifies the season a little bit for the Cavaliers. It shows that we're trending in the right direction, made the right moves, drafted the right guys, developed those guys, and now here they are. Wasn't long ago that people were calling Darius Garland the worst rookie in the class back when he was drafted, and he is absolutely, like you said, Justin, exceeded expectations. I mean, and this is what I want to make known. A lot of people think he might have had the advantage because the All-Star game is in Cleveland. If you watch one game of Cavaliers basketball, you see how valuable this guy is to this team. He has been absolutely tremendous. Signature games, a triple-double in one of them. Really shooting the ball very well, gets guys involved. I mean, he seems like he's a walking double-double many a times, especially nowadays. Very much a Chris Paul-esque kind of player is Darius Garland. This is absolutely what he deserves. I think it is a confidence boost, especially at a time where we know Garland is down. He will not play tomorrow in a big game against Charlotte. But having that solidify, that vindication that Darius Garland put in the work, got to this point in his career, and now can be named an all-star. It is truly a really exciting thing. It's exciting for the fans, but I'm really excited for him because he deserves it.
Yeah, such a young player, and just, the progression. You talk about him in his rookie year. I believe Jeff, who's a huge statistic guy, could tell us that there were stats pointing towards that idea that Garland was not going to be, after drafting Colin Sexton and, comparing his stats to Garland's, there was a lot to be upset about and kind of not, think this would be possible in the upcoming years. But his progression year in and year out has been so good. And this is only his third year. Obviously, yeah, there's guys like John Morant, who's in his second year getting his first NBA All-Star game, who are just, they come into the league and right away they're fantastic players. But it's really nice to be able to develop and watch a kid grow up. Again, we talk about it kind of consistently because of, my fanboying over him, but he is younger than us. He's a kid, and it's interesting to just be like, wow, the progression over time, the leadership, the actual play that he's shown us has just progressed to the point that he's now an NBA All-Star. And that's just phenomenal for him.
The best part about it, Justin and Jeff, I mean, there's so much more for him to do as well. I think Trae Young came in and he has been a terrific player, and he's deserving of his all-star starting position that he's had the last couple of seasons. Well, this season I think 2 years ago is what he had. But I think a lot of people see the top for Trae Young. They've seen his cap. He's a good player. He's fantastic. I think he's definitely one of the better young guards in the league. But the thing that's exciting about Garland is, like you said, Justin, it took a few years. We saw him get better day by day. Saw him get better game by game, year by year. And now here he is. And I think he's just starting to scrape, a little bit of that surface. I think he still has a long way to go to really show what he can do. I think this is the first of many all-star appearances for Darius Garland.
Well said by both you guys. I mean, it's just a process you have to look at because he did not come onto the scene right away. It did take him a little while. That's all fair, and that is the truth. We got a couple people in chat rolling in, trickle on in. Might take a little bit, as it does sometimes. We got Derpy Gaming, and we got, of course, moderator Ashton the Joker. Congrats, Garland. It is nice. It's nice to have an all-star again, and it's nice to do it. Sports are just like that. It seems corny, it seems cliche, but the all-star is in Cleveland. We have an all-star, so I'm glad that it worked out that way. I'm upset that he's missing these games. If we're talking about the landscape of going into the all-star break, it's a little bit annoying. It's unlucky. It's unfortunate. And, yeah, I'm excited for the whole all-star weekend experience. Looking for single-ticketed event tickets. I don't want to stay at the Hilton. I'm going to keep saying it. I don't need a hotel room. I just don't. So, yeah, that's how I'm feeling. But the reserves. Let's just talk about how the reserves works, because I don't know if anybody really I feel like people know now, but it's to the point where they've changed the all-star format so many different ways where, the starting five, it kind of has to be positionally because it's the starting five. But when you see with the reserves, there is no true four and there is no true five for the Eastern Conference as a reserve. How are you guys seeing that in particular? Is that affecting the game negatively or positively? And did that, weigh into the decision for Jarrett Allen to not be an all-star?
It might upset some Cavs fans, but I think at the end of the day, if you're better than another player, you should be on the team. I do think, before it was that way where you would draft.
But Logan, what does better mean? Do you mean stats or what does better mean? I know what you're saying, but at the end of the day, it's like, I didn't know a lot of these people's stats, but Chris Middleton is not, having a better statistical year than some guys, I think at least.
I agree. And I do still think that some of the guys that were drafted or some of the guys that were taken here weren't right. But when I look at the reserves, I don't think there's really a player in there that I could say Jarrett Allen should have been in over them, is the way I'm kind of looking at this situation. Yeah, Jimmy Butler missed a lot of games. James Harden has kind of had a headache, but he's still playing at a good level. Jason Tatum is really playing well right now. Fred VanVleet, I think, well-deserved all-star nod with his Toronto team being, as solid as they are overall, and him really having a breakout year, 21 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists. Zach Levine, another one. It's just hard for me to say that Jarrett Allen should be in over those guys. However, I do think that I could see, a situation where he takes one of those spots. It's just, to me, I think better overall kind of means at the end of the day, when you count off 1 through 100, best 100 players in the NBA, is Jarrett Allen ahead of these players? And I think you can make the argument that he isn't, and I think you can make the argument that he is. I think he played himself out of the All-Star game the last couple of weeks, still played pretty well, but definitely not as eye-opening as he was at the beginning of the year. So to me, the best 12 players from each conference should lace their shoes up and go out and play. And to me, I think that was fairly the idea, at least in the Eastern Conference. I think the Western Conference is a different story.
I think it's kind of BS. Honestly, it's kind of BS. And it's unfortunate because in reality, let's be honest, more often than not, your guards are going to be the technical best players on your team.
Right, they have the ball the most, right?
Small forward kind of works their way in. Obviously, you can argue the guys that are 6'10", like Kevin Durant is a small forward, but LeBron James, small forward, all these guys. And to look at the East and be like, all right, well, there's not a single power forward / center in the reserves. And then you look at the West and you're like, all right, Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, those are guys that are centers and power forwards at the very least. And the draft kind of screws that situational where you're looking at it and it's like, all right, well, if they just did what was the old fashioned East versus West, and it's just, you get your teams comparatively, Garland might not make this list and Allen would make the list because of that. And so, I'm heartbroken because saying that I can understand that Garland is probably at the very least the last person that was picked onto this all-star team, but I still think he deserves to be here. Whether or not you go and you argue that Jarrett Allen should make it over him or Jarrett Allen should make it over him because of positional value, it's hard because this game is it's just what it is. You're trying to get guys with big names out there, and centers aren't flashy for any reason. And Garland is, we've seen it. He's flashy. He can be flashy and can provide, a little bit of a wow factor for this All-Star game.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying, Justin. I think I'm talking more from today's NBA and what the rules are. Yeah. I'm just saying I think they got it right. If that's the way they want to do it, not that I agree with it, that they want to do non-positional players get in, I think they mostly got that right. I think I would like to see it go back to the old way, but like you said, Justin, at the end of the day, I think we'd all be scratching our heads pretty hard if Jarrett Allen was in and Darius Garland fell out of that All-Star game. Because at the end of the day, Garland's our best player, plain and simple. And that's why I like this situation where if that's what they want to do, then put the best players in. Because if Garland wasn't in, it just would be an absolute BS move, in my opinion, for the All-Star game. I think it would bring some illegitimacy to it if you're putting guys in who simply aren't better in this new format.
It's crazy. It's crazy to look at these all-star reserves and think about players that have been in the past and aren't here now. Like Bradley Beal is someone who I've always had a high respect for, who, his team has been, has been bouncing around for the past couple of years, having to deal with Russell Westbrook and then the trade aftermath of dealing Russell Westbrook to the Lakers. And, guys like Zach Levine and Fred VanVleet and Darius Garland, I feel like you would, there are people who are Bradley Beal stans that would argue that, hey, he's better than these three players and should probably be in the All-Star game. But at the end of the day, has he been playing that well? Is his team playing that well? And that's another big factor that I think Jeff really wants to get into is hey, the actual importance of some of these players being in here because of how their teams are doing.
Justin Harold, perfect segue machine. Here we go. Because I literally am on Twitter trying to, get our links out. I tweeted this out right when it happened with the stats, and I put in there leader of the 5th seed, that's been better. We've actually been the 4th seed. I think we might have even been the 3rd seed at one point. And Booze Hound responds 19.9, 7.7, and 7.2 is better. And he's mistaken, and he tried me mistakenly because I was just looking at everybody's numbers, and I know that that's LaMelo Ball's stat line for the first half. Mm-hmm. I know it is. I was just looking at it. And he's not – there's nothing, incorrect about this. He's right. That's a better stat line. But I said 5th in the East is better. So I was going to say I was going to say that the Eastern Conference coaches or the coaches around the league don't agree with him, but – I just decided to be minorly cordial. I think that the 5th, being where you are in the standings means a lot for these all-star reserve and the starters at the same time. Unless someone is putting up a crazy stat line, you see it with DeJounte Murray in the West. He's fringe averaging a triple-double. He isn't even a reserve. Andrew Wiggins is averaging 19 and 9 and is a starter. Golden State's obviously playing inspired basketball, and Andrew Wiggins has been a big part of that success. So it's one of those things where it's inconsistent for me though, Logan, because if we want to, let's go over to because I have what you sent me.
By the way, Booze Hound's going to be coming for you tomorrow if Charlotte ends up pulling it out with minus Garland. He'll ignore the fact that Garland wasn't playing, though, I'm sure.
Right.
They could do whatever they want, really, because, who knows? But really, let's go over to see if you missed the full list. Here we go. We have Butler, Garland, Harden, Levine, Middleton, Jason Tatum, and Fred VanVleet. Personally, and I think this is where the inconsistencies show their head when it comes to the record and the team success. James Harden, is he putting up probably crazy numbers and stats? Yes, but that Nets team is underperforming. They should not be
losses right now.
They should not be 8th in the East. So I don't get how he's a reserve over somebody like LaMelo Ball, like a Jarrett Allen, where their teams are overperforming. Did people really think Charlotte was going to be super good, coming into the year? Did people think the Cavs were going to be a contender in the East to come into the season? So that's really what I'm missing. I mean, we don't follow the West, and I don't really think there's a huge snub over there, even though I do like DeJounte Murray as far as being a fan of just a different NBA player who doesn't play for the Cavs. I don't know if, Logan, do you think there's a snub on the West side?
Yeah, I mean, definitely DeJounte Murray. We have to remember Draymond Green just announced he will not play. And so that means Adam Silver has to name a player of his choosing in the West. Also in the East, Kevin Durant won't be ready to play, is my understanding. So that means a starter or a person to be named in the East. I think that's where LaMelo Ball, maybe Jarrett Allen can sneak in there. That's kind of the situation. Out West, though, I think it starts at DeJounte. I think they got this mostly right. Mitchell's missed quite a few games, but when he's playing, they're pretty freaking good. Devin Booker definitely deserves to be in there. Chris Paul is kind of one of those, like, they're the best team in the NBA. Got to give them two. Not to say Chris Paul hasn't played very well. He has. I just think that, DeJounte Murray at the end of the day.
Yeah, the reserves are 2 Suns and 2 Jazz. Yep. And it's like people are saying, "Oh, Sabonis is subbed on the Eastern Conference." Like Indiana's Sabonis, not very good.
You can make a case. You can definitely make a case that he's a bit of a snub. I'm trying to think of just players at the top of my head, but Draymond Green, it's another one of those things. Like, right, his team is doing well. At the end of the day, they're doing very well, and you can see the impact that he has on this team when he doesn't play. They're not playing very good basketball right now, and that's what you have to weigh in. You can't just look at numbers all the time. That's like the main thing I was talking about with Kevin Love in my article the other day is like, yeah, his numbers look similar to last year, but his impact is so much different, what he means to a team. That's what these players mean to their teams. That's why they're in.
And this is what I like. This Ashton knows how to get it spicy. Murray is your favorite player. He doesn't play for the Cavs yet. I hope he's right. I really do hope he's right. I saw a report that Kobe is going to wait till the 11th hour to make a move. It was a check mark, I think, but I don't know.
Tomorrow's gonna be an interesting one. I think after the Charlotte game, maybe he pulls the trigger right then and there.
How about this one? How about this? Sorry, Justin, but we'll get into this closer to the break. Yeah. Kevin Love in the 3-point contest.
Okay, now see this is where you can throw in guys because he also games in Cleveland.
Yeah,
he's shooting 40% from downtown. He's a big man. Why not put a little bit of a different player in there? Because you're probably gonna, I don't think these guys will actually compete, but your Steph Currys, your Klay Thompsons, in the past the Ray Allens. Pretty much they just throw the very best shooters in. But why not? Because he's from Cleveland, give him a run. He'll probably get eliminated in the first round and go for 16. But why not Kevin Love represented there? Garland should be in the skills challenge. I definitely think Kevin Love should be thrown in there.
I feel like Kevin's got a big enough name that you could throw him in the 3-point competition for whatever reason. I mean, I used to be such a big fan of All-Star Weekend. I remember that the dunk contest used to be like one of the coolest freaking things to watch. And now, like, who do we have in there, guys? Like Obi Toppin's one of those guys, and
that's what I'm saying. Like, it would be weird and awkward, and they just don't do it because besides outside of like Dwight Howard, but I mean Jarrett Allen dunks a good amount. I'm not saying put him into the dunk contest, but with the roster they announced, it's like, why not almost at one point, he's not, I don't think he's as athletic as some of the guys they have. And I don't know if he would, draw big crowds, but I agree with you, Justin. The All-Star Weekend has been trending downhill, I think, for a while.
I just don't know what they do to revitalize it. All right, let's be honest. The skill challenge, no one really watches the skills challenge.
I love it. I think the skill challenge is so underrated, man.
I think it's underrated, but like I remember watching it with Chris Paul and being like, all right, this is like actually entertaining because you can kind of see the skill that goes into these challenges.
All around players, right?
But I think the last time I was invested in the dunk contest was probably that. Oh goodness,
Levine versus Gordon.
Yeah, Levine versus Gordon,
and that's like 6 years ago, maybe more.
Yeah. It's just like disheartening because like now we straight up have guys that are, I don't know,
2016
guys that like are fringe players on a lot of teams. It's like I feel like Obi Toppin's got to be one of those guys where that's his only asset to his team that he does. Like he dunks and that's it. Like great, but at the same time, like you got to have a big name in there. Donovan Mitchell was in there for 1 year. Do we know Donovan Mitchell to be a sick dunker for any reason? Is he pulling 360s out? I feel like the tomahawk.
That would be our luck too.
I feel like the tomahawk has always been like a thing that people get overhyped for, but I don't know. It's interesting.
That's a good point right there. Ant-Man should be in the dunk contest. That would be a nice Wait a minute. Who is the dunk contest? Juan Toscano Anderson.
Oh God, I'll try to look
Obi
it up real
Toppin,
quick.
and there's two others. I'm trying to think.
Well, I feel like the dunk contest is to the point where they reach out to people and people say no. Like,
Yeah.
how is Ja not in it?
Is Derek Jones
Jalen
Jr. in there?
Green. Jalen Green is in there.
Jalen Green's fine.
Obi Toppin, Jalen Green, Cole Anthony.
Yeah, why?
Yeah, why is Cole Anthony in there?
Can Cole Anthony even dunk? Am I toxic?
I think he can, but I just don't know what he's going to do.
Dunk. Like, I feel like they reach out to Ja,
Anderson.
and Ja's like, no. Like, they
They
probably
throw
reach
Isaac Okoro in there.
That's what I'm saying. You might as well.
Imagine Ja Morant versus Zion Williamson one day in the dunk contest.
Zion would pull a hamstring.
He'd probably if he can ever play again.
Zion, I don't even know. I gotta stop.
You gotta stop.
I gotta stop.
Jeff.
I don't even know what's. But all right, so, but what can they do to make All-Star Weekend better? Cole Anthony got bounced. I'm hearing.
Here's the problem.
I'm ignorant.
The All-Star game itself should be like the best players, and then everything underneath it needs to be stacked with players that are well known.
Favorites.
Like the 3-point contest, like Klay Thompson should be in there, right?
Yes.
Klay Thompson's not in All-Star Weekend right now.
Right. Go ahead.
He should be in the 3-point competition. That would get people to watch. Like, you have to find the happy medium between, hey, we want to be a valid All-Star game where we are showing off the best of the NBA and not just people that have big names. Golden State having 3 players in there. Andrew Wiggins, people are, flying off the board and having their comments about that. But Draymond Green being in there as well. We all know Steph Curry's going to make it. Like, you have to find the happy medium of, like, all right, there are players that are deserving of this, and then there are the players that we know will drive in a crowd. And as bad as that is to say, like, hey, they're not taking the actual best 3-point shooters in the league. Like, they're going to grab guys that will attract people to actually want to buy those tickets for that night.
Yeah, I mean, I have a good example. Guys, Michael Jordan used to be a freaking dunk contest participant a few years. Larry freaking Bird was in the 3-point contest plenty of times. Those are the big names. That's when All-Star Weekend was interesting. I think the dunk contest got a little bit boring because people are just running out of freaking dunks to do. You can only do so much, on the court. But yeah, I think adding a couple of big names would be great. LeBron should have been in the dunk contest like 11 times.
Yeah, we're preaching the choir.
I feel like they ask LeBron every year and he says no.
He definitely just says no. I think you can't really do much about that.
Here's the issue, though, because this is athletic sport wide, because the Pro Bowl is literally on. I don't care. Nick Chubb is in a race. Nick Chubb is racing people, and I'll just honestly, this is Generation Z put in a box right here. Nick Chubb is racing Trayvon Diggs, Micah Parsons, and Tyreek Hill. I'm just gonna watch it on Twitter. I'm just gonna find the clip. I'm not gonna go on my Spectrum, like on my desktop. Like I could pull up cable right now. Like I could be watching it, but it's like, where's the incentive? I felt like it was an incentive, before, and maybe not before NBA was mainstream, but like the formative years of this league, where it was like peak rating. They actually played, hard basketball in the regular season too. That's your main issue. Your main issue stems from regular season games aren't that competitive. Plus player safety, how these guys maintain their bodies. Nobody wants to even do this, especially with COVID. Like they want to rest for 2 weeks, right? And they don't want to even play in the All-Star game. Like in the past couple of years, LeBron wanted it canceled, but Parsons outran Hill. You're lying. Now I'm gonna need the clip. But what was I saying? There needs to be an incentive for somebody to win. The MLB game always, except for 2 or 3 years ago, the MLB All-Star game, the winner was home field advantage for the World Series. They got rid of that. Now this is interesting. Let's talk about this because I'm just I'm going off. Where are we at?
As you always are, Jeff.
What is this?
He always catches himself, though, Justin.
No, it's not this. It's not this.
Don't want to get too far out there, Logan.
But it's one of those things where what is the incentive for these guys to care? And there isn't any, to the point where, this I think would actually be a good idea. They floated this for a while. They're thinking about a mid-season tournament, and this article is from 2021, the end of the year. Pre-Christmas, quarter, semis, and finals, and $1 million per player payout on the winning team. See, but it's like it's to the point where the player contracts are so ridiculous that the 5 or the 10 NBA All-Star starters wouldn't care about $1 million.
Yeah.
No.
I don't think LeBron don't care about $1 million. I mean, Garland would care about $1 million, but those are the reserves. So it's one of those things where there needs to be some incentive. The All-Star game is kind of busted. That's why they've reworked it with the draft. And, it's kind of like media hits. It's like, what can we get the most tweets out of? They take forever to release the reserves. They get 15, 16 tweets out of the reserve. They get a whole live stream where you see LeBron and Giannis, side by side on the Zoom. So
Yeah.
I don't know how to fix it.
I think the All-Star game itself has actually been kind of entertaining since they went to this draft format because these guys like in the fourth quarter especially really pick it up. But I remember that game a couple of years ago. I think it was Giannis versus Team LeBron. That thing was pretty competitive the whole game, and they added the whole, the charity work that they do. Win each quarter, you get $250,000. Their charities and stuff like that. I think these players at the end of the day, they do care about that kind of work in their communities, so that they're playing for that. I think it's more with the rest of the events are just kind of bad. I think the dunk contest got ruined, and the reason guys don't want to go to the dunk contest, the big names, because they watched Aaron Gordon get absolutely robbed 2 times.
Well, yes, the judging they need actual judges for the All-Star game dunk contest. I'm not trying to be toxic, but
makes it more of a gimmick than actually some
fun. Aren't a fan of Dwayne Wade being a dunk contest?
No,
Dwayne Wade gave
dunk
Gordon a 9,
experts.
Oh wow,
is that even a thing? A dunk experts? But MLB. All right, here's the thing. Tyler Simpson, actually a homie. MLB All-Star game players actually play. Yes, because there's like 50 guys on each team. So
Right.
like a pitcher pitches 3 outs and then he's done, or like 2 outs and then he's done. You get 1 or 2 at bats, and people aren't totally stressed. But the MLB All-Star game has similar issues. People don't want to do the home run derby. They think that it messes up their swing. I don't know if I feel like people have said that like they don't want to do 3-point contests because it messes up, like you have to actually shoot differently. I don't know if there's good evidence behind that. This is funny, though. Wonder what the over-under will be for this year's All-Star game. They may play defense last 8 minutes. Isn't there last year, was it a target score?
Yeah,
Did they
Kobe.
stop?
It was they wasn't it 24 points. Whoever got to the 24 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, but they
had
played
their
the first 3
score.
quarters.
Right, and I think it was first one to 24 in the fourth quarter, right? Something like that. They had.
But I
they
think
changed
they
it with
should
Kobe.
change the rules so it's not like. I mean, I don't know how they would do it, though. I don't think it should be an actual, like, basketball game. I think they should have, like, goofy rules. Like, that's where you experiment with stuff that you might want to see, like, in the game down the stretch.
Didn't they have a 4-point shot last year?
They should have a 4-point shot every year.
That's a good thing.
4-point shot. I mean, I don't know, though. NBA has been around for, you can't really – a lot of these modern-day sports, you can only change them so much.
It's really interesting that – to think about it, you only have 12 All-Stars on each team. I feel like you should make it at least 15 on each team, trying to get more out there just for the sake of like, hey, guys are kind of like injured and dealing with things, but they
just
still
for
want
fans
the honor.
too.
Yeah, they still want the honor of being out there, being named. Guys like LaMelo should probably be in it. DeJounte Murray should probably be in it. But at the same time, like we as Cavs fans know that Darius Garland is injured right now. And so like, hey, as much as I would love to see Garland play every single minute of that game, I know he's dealing with a back thing. I don't want him to go out there and like do anything that's going to make him hurt that or just like overextend himself, I
literally just came up with an A1 idea. I think it's A1 in just because when you said that about having more people, and they should do the coach vote. And it should be tallied. Now, if there's 15 guys, they do this. They just implemented this with the playoffs. If do 14. Do 15. 12 plays 13 1-on-1 and 14 plays 15 1-on-1 to a point to like 11. Winners of each are all-stars. Losers go home.
I get it.
That like opens up the weekend.
That's kind of fair. I kind of like that, Logan.
I do too, but imagine a one-on-one game. These guys are going to be playing competitive ball, and one of them gets hurt.
Yes. That's why it's in season is tough.
Yeah, it is. But I kind of like that because
I like the idea. Just take it to like the board and like have them discuss a little bit. Maybe add a few kinks to it.
I mean, it's just like, I don't know, or just do if it's like Darius and LaMelo, do the skills. Whoever does the skills faster,
there you go.
best out of 7. It's a 7-game series.
think
two
about
3-point
think about the
shooters.
Rising Stars games though. In the past, we've seen it as
Who
Cavs
watches
fans
those?
with Kyrie. But no, listen. With Kyrie and with Dion Waiters, we watched Dion Waiters and who was it?
Tim
from the
Hardaway
Knicks?
Jr. shootout.
Dude,
Yeah.
how fun was that? Like that was
Mhm.
two guys like actually kind of like going at it. Like those two like legit. Unfortunately for their teammates, legit took the game into their hands and just kind of went back and forth and were going nuts. But like if you implemented that into what Jeff's talking about and going like, hey, go at it. Like we want to see like who actually has game here. I feel like that's kind of like a blacktop thing where it's kind of like you get a little bit of competitive as well as like fun in with it.
People always want to watch these one-on-one games, right? I mean, I always wanted to watch Kobe and Kyrie go truly a one-on-one game.
Right.
I think it could have been so much fun.
Tyler says, I don't know if you guys talked about this. There's no big men at East reserves. Yeah, there's no positional voting for the reserves, it seems like, because there's no 4 or 5 backup. Have fans vote on who should be in dunk contests and 3-point contests. If a player refuses, he forfeits his all-star spot. See, that's like I kind of am on board for that. Like you get like reprimanded, but at the end of the day, I feel like people are, they might be concerned about getting hurt in the dunk contest. I could see that kind of it. I don't think it's ever happened, but it's just one of those things where you can't force any of these guys to do it. But it's like it's true though. Everybody wants to be an all-star. You want to say you've been a 17, 18 time all-star or whatever the hell. So, I mean, if you want it, you got to earn it. Bennett, Allen snubbed probably because of how bad the Cavs are consistently out-rebounded. He still got snubbed though. See, this is true, but it's like, I think he's leading the team with rebounds. So it's kind of tough to, I know what you're saying. And he does. I was looking at his stats. He's like top 10 in the league right with rebounds.
I was muted for a second. My bad.
He is 10th in the league in rebounds at 10.7.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that he's the reason that he should, like, the team, like we were arguing for Garland. Like Garland is in there because the team is doing so well. He's doing so well. Allen should also be in there, but I can understand that like that individual stat, he's leading it for us. So I don't know that you can really make the argument that that's why he should be out.
I think like 6 weeks ago, maybe longer though. I think Allen was. I think he was the front runner to be our all-star.
Yeah, he was having 20-point games with double doubles.
Yeah, he was the Eastern Conference Player of the Week. Darius was the Eastern Conference Player of the Week as well. But they both had that honors, and it's unfortunate both of them couldn't make it. But I just don't think that you can't be too upset. I mean, I don't think Middleton's numbers are very good, but it's whatever, really.
There's always going to be a couple of snubs, and that's why 15 players makes a lot of sense. I think there's never 4 snubs, but there's hardly ever 3 snubs. I think there's always just 2 players usually that people have real problems with. I think that's the same thing this year, Jeffrey, if you agree. But that is a good point of why not go 15?
There's always
at least a couple of snubs. There's always a few. You can't get them all in.
Well, people will argue that the names like Clay, like people are probably in Golden State right now. Like Golden State fans are just arguing that Clay should be in it for the fact that he's Klay Thompson.
Derrick Rose for the fact that he's Derrick Rose.
But Derrick Rose, what is he actually doing? That's the problem that I had with the starters. Is like you would see it week in and week out, and it'd be like, all right, why are these people here right now? Derrick Rose, does he really deserve to be there? Kyrie Irving, does he really deserve to be there? I'm surprised that Kyrie didn't make it to the game because of like his name. But I'm happy that it prevailed that Darius Garland made it over Kyrie. That's where it just needs to, like, you need to have that fine line of, like, hey, all right, Kyrie should be in the skill challenge, or Kyrie should be shooting in the 3-point competition. Like, give him something, because obviously he's still a huge name in the league, but he doesn't deserve to be in the All-Star game.
But it's like, see, like, that's the annoying part but it's like Kyrie versus LaMelo, one-on-one. Winner gets in. So, I mean, that's drawing ratings. You're getting Charlotte fans. You're getting more, Nets fans and Brooklyn fans. See, this is the problem with fan voting. Clay and someone else, can't remember, has more votes than Booker. Like, the fan voting is
stupid, to be honest with you.
Has it always been fan voting, or has this evolved from?
How did Zion make it last year? Did Zion
make it
off of any, like, actual merit? outside
Zion,
of like
he was good last year, man.
He had good numbers.
Zion was real good.
I just don't see it. Like it's the same thing with RJ Barrett. Like people were
I agree
all
with
going
this.
crazy last season that RJ Barrett
Or
was
even
like this.
in the All-Star game.
Maybe not that, but I don't think he should be starting.
Who do you
Yeah.
think you should be starting at guard?
I don't know. I mean, I think
This year,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be. I mean, biased,
Is
but
it time for the meme, Justin?
probably Levine.
I
Is
don't know
Levine a
about
guard, or are they classifying Levine as
Levine
a
is
three?
a guard.
I mean, I think
DeRozan's
Levine
classified as a
is
three.
Levine's having more success with Chicago than Trae Young's having with Atlanta, and I think their stats are probably. I don't know. See, like I'm kind of ignorant about stats,
trying to
but
find.
I'm
trying to
looking
find,
at.
like
I'm getting asked about Draymond Green stats. That's what I'm saying.
Like,
Like, what is
Impact,
this?
man. It's impact. Look how bad they are without him. Their record has totally plummeted since he went down. I don't think he deserves to be an all-star based on being an all-star or being a great player, but his impact for that team, it can't be understated. And I hate Golden State, and
Yeah,
I think everybody listening hates Golden State, but even I can't disagree that, yeah, like, look, I mean, 8-8-8 basically. I mean, it's not the numbers you want to see.
Yikers.
9% from the free throw line.
That's so terrible.
But
he is a stat stuffer.
He just he does something right for the team. It's just it kind of sucks. It's definitely kind of weird, especially when you're trying to pick the best players. There's players that are better than Draymond Green that didn't make it. I totally agree. Wait, hold on. One of his nicknames is the Dancing Bear.
I think
Huh?
I think Basketball Reference makes those up
Day. I've heard Dre. I haven't heard the Dancing Bear, but
because
yeah.
I think they make those up. I mean, I don't know.
I've never heard the Dancing Bear, Draymond Green.
I don't know.
Wait,
what,
Jeff, you should have pulled up. You should have, while you were looking at Draymond, you should have pulled up Wiggins' stats. Like he's actually having such a
18-4-2, I think.
That's my thing. He's like having a way better year than Draymond is, but like Draymond still makes it through the game. Like Draymond's not even top 5 in their scoring leaders. He's not even top 6. I don't know.
He's
Everyone
not
knows-
playing.
everyone
Guys, he's
knows what
damn
he
near a
brings to the
triple-double
game.
every game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's
Yeah, this one won't make
it's my
sense to
hate
me.
for him though. Like he's definitely one of those players that I have a vendetta out for. That like I'm like, hey, I don't want to see you succeed in any way. But like I look at his stats and I'm not impressed by anything. Like what's he gonna end up with this year? Is he gonna be like a second team NBA all defense? Like
This is the worst stat line to ever start an All-Star game.
Oh, I agree.
It has
I think
to
this
be.
is bull crap. I mean, I'm happy for him. I still think he maybe deserved like some votes and stuff, but to actually be a starter, that's really a shame.
Well, that's where you can argue like a Donovan Mitchell should have started over him, or a lot of different Western players.
Here we go.
should have
DeJounte
started.
Murray,
Dude, look at that.
20 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists. That's tough, man.
18, 4, and 2.
His free throw
19.
shooting, a lot to be left desired, though.
I know. That's what I was looking at the other day. But his threes, like, could be worse. I mean, it's not great, but
Yeah,
his
it's also the amount that he attempts, though, is the problem.
yeah, he doesn't get a lot of
Hey,
looks.
look
down
at his
there 'cause
nickname, Baby Boy.
But you know what? While we're
Made
here,
up.
while we're talking about Murray,
Made up.
at least you know that he can get you those 19 points without having to shoot the 3 ball. Whereas, like, you're watching a Cavs game without Garland right now, and it's tough to be like, all right, like, what can we actually do without him? Because if Jarrett Allen is your only guy, they're focusing on Jarrett Allen. Thank God Evan Mobley is, just a rookie and coming into his own. But, like, our
Mobley
guards
can't carry you.
Our guards are pitiful. And, like, even if you had Sexton, like, the problem is efficiency. That's going to be always my, like, driving point is, like, that's why Garland is in the All-Star game. It's like, he's efficiently one of the best guards in the league. And I don't think there's any way to, like, argue that.
I'm not. I know.
I know there's stats, Chef. You could find the stats.
No. I agree with you, but I was gonna say something off cuff, and I'm starting to curb myself because
I'm just gonna say, guys, DeJounte Murray, if the Cavaliers actually made a move for him, we currently have the best odds to land LeBron James too, and LeBron really loves DeJounte Murray. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just making it.
Yeah, what is it going to take for us to get LeBron off of the Lakers?
I'd like to win a
free agent.
without
No,
LeBron,
I think they're
honest.
thinking free agency. LeBron. I would love to win one without him too. Logan, here's a good one. So let's check out Karis LeVert's nickname.
Baby Durant.
How disrespectful
You're
is that?
absolutely capping. The dude is 4 inches
Hey,
off from ever
hey guys,
being
you
Durant.
guys, Karis LeVert
they
has
call him
better
Baby
numbers
Durant.
than Andrew Wiggins.
Oh God.
Yeah, but the Indiana sucks. I mean, I don't hate Wiggins as
I
a
know, I'm
reserve.
totally kidding.
but it's
I
like-
don't hate him as a reserve either.
Go to that latest comment.
Someone
Good
coming at
God.
us?
Someone's trying to stir the pot.
No, this is not stirring the
Brandon
pot. This is
Goodwin.
true.
Colin
And that's
Sexton.
when I stopped myself from saying, because what I was going to say is that we don't win.
No.
We're not winning in Houston last night if Sexton is healthy. Sorry.
How
just
bad
aren't.
is it that Cavs Twitter?
Are you?
Cavs
wouldn't.
Twitter literally went, I see a lot of Colin Sexton and Brandon Goodwin's game. What does that mean? Brandon Goodwin doesn't like elevate our team in any way that's like, hey,
Neither
we're
does
winning a
Colin
lot of games
Sexton.
now.
Check Colin
That's-
Sexton's
Okay, well
win
then
loss.
if he's the next Colin Sexton, I think that makes that means
sense.
Colin's on the way out, or
That's why, yes.
If
Me
he
and
wasn't
Robert
hurt-
have some behind the scenes discussions, and he said
see.
last night that the way Goodwin's playing, I don't think he could play like that the whole year though. But
No.
Sexton is expendable. I see what people are saying. He's quick, he's aggressive, he really only drives to the rim exceptionally well, and his 3-pointer could come along. I think that was the difference last year, that Sexton shot the ball pretty well, but it's like, Colin Sexton's primary move is putting his head down and going to the rim.
I like and I know I keep harping on this. I like the efficiency that Murray brings to his squad, and not only what I think would come to our squad. Is it fair to be like, hey, if Colin came off the bench, could we expect a lot of good to come from that? Yeah, I was a pretty big advocate for him starting off the bench this year and having Okoro start and add a defensive presence. But at the end of the day, like, hey, you've seen with the two big guys, Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen, like, hey, a lot of our efficiency comes from guys that can get to the rim and also pass the ball. The problem with Colin is that he's never really taken it to the rim and dished it off in an efficient way. And I think it's important to note that in like when you're looking at team chemistry, and Jeff, this is something that I feel like we talked about or tried to talk about in our text messages and never really like fully fleshed out. Chemistry is like how would you actually play with one another? Would DeJounte Murray's stats decline if he got traded to us because he'd be, who knows, technically third or fourth in line for touches and things like that? I think it's interesting to like think about it in that way, but also like if you're trading away in Okoro, a Sexton, you're giving touches to Murray.
Depends. I think Murray's threefold. I think his scoring would be this. I was going to say shooting, but I think his scoring would be the same or decline. I think his assists would actually go up.
Yeah, could get to 10.
But I understand Darius is your primary facilitator, but I think they would stay the same. I think him passing to Darius, him passing to Jetty, him passing to Kevin Love, Mobley. I think we have more playmakers. Like, who's the second playmaker in San Antonio that's even hitting shots when he passes them the ball? That's the most impressive part about his game to me, is averaging 9 assists, passing to who? Derek White? Not terrible. They have some decent pieces. I think his rebounding would stay the same. It's Jarrett Allen, a big drop. Well, it's Jarrett Allen, Evan Mobley, and a big drop off. And then it's like somebody at 4 or 5.
Right.
Darius is like our third rebounder or something crazy like that. I don't know.
I really like the idea of DeJounte Murray, but can he be effective without the basketball? That's my question.
That's a lot of people's question. We want
because
off ball.
I it just feels weird to me that Garland just made the All-Star game. He is our primary facilitator, and now you bring in another primary facilitator. At least like with Sexton, like we knew, okay, that he's our scorer, Garden's our facilitator. With DeJounte, it either works out really well where it's like, oh, we have 2 guys that can lead this, fantastic, or we have 2 guys, and now like our offense looks different every possession, and it can't find a rhythm. DeJounte is not really a good enough shooter yet that he can kind of sit around. So there's like a lot of question marks. I think at the end of the day, like that kind of move would make our team way better. But I don't know.
There's conversation in the comments right now that I think is very important between a lot of people about, there are people that think that Sexton provides a lot. Obviously, the Joker is saying that he averages 25 last season, but then Tyler talking about, what's the problem with Murray? It's, hey, he's not a great shooter. That's one thing that
he's not bad though. I mean,
he's not bad, but in
he
a
would
lot
be
of our
good
sets,
for our team.
yeah, and I think the thing to really analyze there is like, hey, if you're gonna go out and you're gonna get Murray, that means in a game you start the game off Garland, Murray, whoever you're gonna have at 3, Markkanen or
Lowry.
It doesn't matter who's gonna be there right now.
Yep.
Mobley, Allen. It means that you can sub out Garland early in the game, or you can sub Murray out early in the game and have one of them take over and then work the substitution. You saw it with how Allen and Mobley were coming out early on in the season and how that worked out well for us. I think that's a very big thing that you can take into consideration because at this point, you have guys like Chetty, you have guys like Kevin Love who come off the bench and shoot the 3-ball really well. I think not unfortunately, but I think you can even line up a lot of Rubio's game to what a lot of DeJounte Murray does. And I think Murray does it a lot better and he adds a lot more in that he's young and that he goes out, he gets rebounds, pushes the floor a little bit better than Rubio did.
Lockdown defender.
Yeah, and he's a lockdown defender. I think there's a lot to be optimistic about when you're thinking about, all right, what's it going to take to go out and get a guy like Murray and what are we actually giving up now? Just had a very big influence on me and Logan's viewpoint for, going into this trade deadline.
My whole viewpoint, and this is why people get upset, because I want to ship Okoro out to make this trade happen, and I understand if you got upset with me for that because Okoro, he's not playing,
even 2 years into the league.
He's not even playing, he hasn't played 2 full, sets of games yet, 2 full seasons of games, but we're 5th in the East with Okoro making considerable amount of starts. So we've already established that with Garland, we don't need a shooter. But Markkanen, I think here's the thing we're missing, and we're getting into the bulk of the season, which is fine. But I think we're missing Markkanen way more than we'd like to leave on. We're missing Garland, obviously, but it's like
admitting that's a big step.
I'm gonna dial my hate back when Markkanen misses shots because I think he spaces the floor. I think him just being out there makes the defense play differently, which is somehow good enough. And I think he actually does stuff defensively, which is like I don't mind. He's still a 7-footer out there.
At the end of the day.
Yeah, he gets close out. I think our defense has taken a step back with him not being out there. But if we could move someone who hasn't played, Sexton, with Okoro and picks, you're swapping Okoro for Murray, and we've already had success with Okoro not being a good shooter, not being able to create with the basketball. He needs to come off of hard cuts. He needs to develop in, matriculate down the court when it comes to fast breaks. He's someone who's a good – if we could get fast break Okoro in half-court sets, he'd probably average 20 a night, and I would love him, but we just don't get it. So I understand wanting the shooter really, really badly. I do, but it's to the point where Lowry could be that guy. Darius shoots threes. Jetty's up and down, which is fine, and Kevin Love has been pretty good all year from the three-point line. Mobley's coming along with being able to develop his own shot. So I think my reasoning for going with DeJounte is that he could be – I said 3 times is better in the chat, probably hyperbole. He could be 2 to 2.5 times more impactful than Okoro is out there, and we could maintain that same shell of an offensive scheme and a defensive scheme. We're not bringing in Buddy Hield to make spot starts and him to float defenders and, get beat off ball. So It's just one of those things where I don't see the big need of a 40, Bennett says he wants to trade for a 40+%, catch and shoot 3-pointer. I would like that too, but I don't think that's the end-all be-all of trade discussions.
Well, Tyler Simpson bringing up, I don't know if he's bringing up the point about, Lamar Stevens. But if you trade Okoro and Colin Sexton and you're thinking about, hey, next year, you're losing a lot, you're not losing a lot. You're getting guys that should get more minutes. We've had this conversation all year about guys who should be getting more minutes, who should be filling roles. Lamar Stevens is at the very top of that list of guys, of Dean Wade and even Ed Davis. I feel like we're a team that doesn't play a lot of minutes to a lot of guys, and I don't know why we do. I understand that we have our studs, we have our 5 guys, and then a couple guys off the bench, but hey, Lamar Stevens, Dean Wade, Ed Davis, Brandon Goodwin, they've all shown the ability to step up in times that are needed for us. And Lamar Stevens, I think, is very underrated for those talks to be considered.
Ashton is saying Joe Harris type of shooter. See, like I don't disagree. I do disagree with this. I'd rather have Hield than Harrison Barnes, but I have complete PTSD from Harrison Barnes basically giving the city of Cleveland our first championship in 50 years because he sucked in that series. I don't know how he is now. I don't follow him, but
he's playing on a crap team. So
yeah, it's tough. It's tough with guys with like it's. I agree. Like, can DeJounte Murray potentially be smoke and mirrors? Like, I understand where that is, the concern. Is he doing triple-double numbers because San Antonio sucks and like they're kind of out of every game? Like, is he doing a Westbrook? I don't think he's doing a Westbrook because I think he actually plays defense. But I could see where you would be like, oh, he might come here and not have the same impact. But I just think his defensive – it's the intangibles for me because you can't really quantify defense. You can try. There's some stats. There's total points allowed, TPA, NBA math does TPA. Go follow NBA math. Go follow the basketball index on Twitter, all good sites. But you're getting the defense, and you're getting a guy who was developed under Greg Popovich. Nobody is talking about this. I would give 4 firsts for a guy who's putting up triple-double numbers and developed under Greg Popovich. If you want one player in the league to basically come to you through a farm system, it's somebody under Greg Popovich, 1, and it's somebody under Steve Kerr, 2, and they ain't selling. I don't think they are. So it's like Greg Popovich. I think JB kind of has a Greg Popovich mindset almost to an extent, obviously not the same, disclaimer. I'm not saying JB's anywhere near Greg Popovich level style. I'm just saying I could see that about JB.
Here's where I'm concerned. I think DeJounte is a great step up. I think it's a step in the right direction. I don't want that though to stay who the Cavs are, because to me, if we got DeJounte Murray, this team is starting to draw comparisons to the grit and grind Grizzlies, where you have 2 bigs, one of them Mobley or Randolph, who can stretch a little bit. I don't think Mobley is really going to ever be more than a 35% three-point shooter, I think, from the outside. Allen clearly is probably never going to get out there. DeJounte Murray, similarly, I don't think he's going to scrape 35. Garland will probably be mostly a 40% three-point shooter. Good. And then Lowry isn't really your prototypical like catch and shoot 10 threes a game. He's more of like the 3 or 4 and then some back end. So you got to be careful, I guess, if you're trying to make this move. You still like, I think it was Ashton mentioned Joe Harris. Just like you need a guy who's just going to be running around the floor, just everywhere. Klay Thompson does the same thing, just constantly doesn't stop moving. Gets up, even a guy like Doug McDermott for San Antonio.
Oh God,
and I would say, high motor, very high motor.
Right. I'm not saying I want Doug, but I'm saying a guy who just is constantly moving. If you get that's your starting 5. It's a good starting 5. You're going to hold teams to under 100 points a lot. You might win 50 games, but you also might cap. I think you might not get as far as you think you can because there's going to be a very great lack of shooting.
I think the shooting
it's the right move. It's the right step in the right direction.
I think shooting that's just the premium on the NBA. Like
you can find it anywhere.
No. Yeah, I'm being confusing. Like that's what's desired the most. Yeah, like right. You want to, thanks to Golden State. Like really, it was thanks to Golden State. And to be fair, our teams in that era when we were facing off in the finals, like yes, Kyrie was a good 3-point shooter. Of course, you had bump J.R. Smith from the bench, who he was liable to go nuclear whenever, which was cool. LeBron wasn't afraid to chuck threes. We even made like exclusive moves for Kyle Korver, which I think Kyle Korver sold and played his worst basketball of his career in a Cavs jersey. I could be off base there. I don't think he played very well for us.
Oh, Jeff, I hate this. He was awful in the finals. He absolutely was that. I'll give you that. I think
sold.
He was terrific basketball with the Cavaliers.
He sold for us in the biggest moment.
Okay, fair. I mean, yeah.
But it's like, I'm just saying, I'm making that point because like we went out and got a shooter, didn't work. Like, it could have. I agree. I agree with the thought process. Shooter. Yeah, but it's like, I mean, how old is Buddy Hield? 30s? Yeah. Like Karis LeVert is 27, almost 28. I think Murray fits into your timeline a little bit more. He's 25.
Oh, 100%. I just think that still that 3 position, that's kind of usually the last piece for a lot of teams, unless they have like a stud like Durant, LeBron, Melo back in New York and with Denver. I think the 3 is always the hardest spot to fill. I think for the Cavaliers, it's kind of the hardest spot for us to fill. Okoro's got some time, absolutely. And I think he could develop, but that is always the hardest spot and kind of the final piece to a championship.
And I don't mind this either. I don't mind
Rocco.
Wouldn't mind it.
Well, talking about Robert Covington.
Per the price.
Dude, guys, we haven't even talked about that Damian Lillard was not named to the All-Star game. That team is in shambles. Like, you're talking about teams
he hasn't played.
Yeah, but, like, you talk about teams that are in shambles and teams that might be selling, like,
CJ McCollum, a late run?
Yeah, like, that's always a
29
possibility.
games. I would love CJ, truthfully, just for the Northeast Ohio aura.
Too, right? Yeah, like, talking about a guy that would be like, we know he's invested with the Browns. Like, Jeff and I know that through tweets that he's always been super supportive of Cleveland, the Browns, everything that has to do with Cleveland. And so, like, I don't know. I find the last couple of days / weeks of trade deadline to be always the most interesting because teams get desperate. I know that as Cavs fans, we'd hate for this to happen, but with no Garland playing this week, with no Garland playing against the Hornets, if we lost to the Hornets, that'd be, 3 of the last 4 games that we've lost. Mm-hmm. The trade talks would have to ramp up. You'd have to.
Oh, they're going to ramp up anyway. I mean, you got a week, so.
And you'd have to be serious about anything. A talk to CJ or a talk to the Trailblazers for CJ McCollum could be a really, realistic thing. I don't know what his, defense looks like. It's been a long time since I've tried to look at CJ McCollum because I kind of try to put it at the back of my head. But we all know offensively he shoots the 3 ball very well. We all know that he just scores very well as well. So
handles the ball. I mean, he can be a point guard if you need him to.
Exactly. I mean, there's a lot to look into with these last couple of weeks, but All-Star Week I feel like helps ramp up those talks of like, hey, not All-Star Weekend, but these all-star votes like, hey, Damian Lillard not making it to the all-star game. Is
another guy with better numbers than Andrew Wiggins. I'm just kidding. I'm being
what is their record
right now?
They've got to be selling, right?
He has no nicknames. I'll trade for him.
Oh God.
I mean, 40% from 3 though. That's what we're. I mean, I'm not opposed to only adding a shooter. Like I'm going to be. I'm at the point where people are saying don't overreact, and I agree. I do agree. I don't want to overreact, and I don't want to underreact. I've told this to Justin for 2 years since we started doing this. There's no point to underreact, and there's no point to overreact. We can't beat Houston. We can't beat Detroit. Whatever. I'm not going to say anything about that in an 82-game stretch. Yeah. But we are literally at the point where if Darius Garland misses like 10 or 12 games of basketball, we are going to be in the play-in or worse.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to juggle it in the middle. I think CJ would be a good move.
CJ, but the problem is, and I think that's in the comments.
And we haven't even talked about contracts. We talked about all this, no contract talk.
Yeah, that's the problem that someone mentioned, I believe, in there about his contract.
I would love to avoid a play-in because with the Cleveland luck.
Oh yeah, we got to be a top 6.
He's $30 million for 3 years.
Yeah, well, preseason I wanted to trade Kevin Love for him because I thought that was the only way the contract was going to work. We have 13, 10, 11, 12, 13 million.
You can't even throw
disabled player exemption.
Rubio and Sexton's contracts in there for him.
Got a notification saying Joe Harris might need a second procedure. So anybody that's hopeful for a Joe Harris shooter,
he's out. We had Joe Harris in our system. We fumbled him.
We fumbled the bag there, man.
Let's hold on. We're running a little late, but we're flowing. Are we flowing? I'm feeling like we're flowing.
I think we are.
And people hate
Ricky Rubio, Isaac Okoro, Colin Sexton.
People hate when this is brought up. Like people on Twitter, they're like they should never gave the trade machine to just random fans. But like I kind of like the trade machine. Really,
what a fun. Oh boy.
Team 2, like let's try CJ. Like let's just figure it out. Can I get an update on Portland's record? How bad are they?
They are currently the last team in the play-in. They are 10.
Oh, they're actually 10th. Okay, I thought they were a lot worse than that. So what were you saying, Rubio?
It's Rubio, Sexton. Do not even get you the for it to work. But if you throw a Okoro in there, it works.
See, like that, we're selling so much for that. I'm not in for that. I'm not in for
that's
that.
a lot.
Right.
And I would move Rubio. Like I loved Rubio. I've given him all the praise for what he did for us this year, but business is business. It's business oriented first. And, trust me, I'm not Colin Sexton or Isaac Okoro lovers. I enjoy them being Cleveland Cavaliers, of course. I'm not just saying, like, I would move Okoro in a trade situation. What I think we've gotten away from, and I don't know if it's because injuries or he I don't know. It might be controversial. I want Brandon Ingram, and I keep clicking on the hyperlink. I want Ingram
behind Ingram
and Josh Hart for like a Rubio. And I wish you could put picks in here. Like, does this work? Like, wow, that doesn't even work.
I can't get. I don't know why. I can't get behind Ingram for some reason. Like I'd rather.
I'm just not with you on Brandon Ingram either.
I want Josh Hart though. I want Josh Hart bad. He's a good defender who rebounds as a guard.
Great, and I'll give you a Sexton, Okoro, Rubio, and Windler for Josh Hart. No thanks.
Well, yeah.
I got think Ingram in there. I think he's such a pretender. I think he's good. I think he's a solid scorer. I think he's so inconsistent though, from game to game, man.
Guys,
I agree with his inconsistencies, but like, how funny is it that we've totally, like, some teams, like, I feel like 3 or 4 weeks ago, everybody was on like Jaylen Brown and Ingram, and now nobody talks about him.
I'm still on Jaylen Brown. I just think that's he is right up there with DeJounte Murray, where I'm like, I just don't know what it takes to get him, and I don't know like how willing those teams are to trade him, because I would go for
this is that we just don't have. You can't put picks. I wish you could put first rounders, because this is like unrealistic. Like, yeah, this would probably work, but like that, how does that not even work?
That doesn't work. Oh shoot.
See, like, it's not even realistic. Like, I can't even get Jaylen Brown involved.
It's almost like Kobe Altman's job is hard, guys.
It's not. It's almost like Kobe Altman makes his job stupid hard.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's made a knee-jerk reaction at every other possible juncture in his tenure as the general manager, and now we're like, ooh, we're a little bit scared, but we're going to throw $30 million at Andre Drummond for reasons.
Goodness.
I'm way in my bag.
All right. I think we should probably start wrapping it up here.
We're going delusional.
Yeah, we have been going for quite a long time.
Obviously,
a lot to digest with this one, but most importantly, Darius Garland,
all-star Gar. He deserves it, man.
Hopefully we'll
Hope
hear
gets us going a little bit.
Yeah, hopefully
Allen, he could play. Like, I don't mean to be.
Oh my God, yeah, I don't even want to think about that.
I don't want to think about it either. But
we talked about the possibility of him sitting out for these next couple of games. So, but at the end of the day, he's traveling. He's not in any sort of race, so all that's good signs. But like we said, at the end of the day, Garland making an all-star game, Jarrett Allen getting snubbed as of this moment. Hopefully, maybe something happens and he gets in there, but. Still got to be happy for our guy, Darius Garland, first All-Star since LeBron James.
Yeah, everybody in chat, we really appreciate you guys. So active as always. Tomorrow, the plan is we're going to beat Charlotte because we're just better than
minus
them.
Garland.
We're just gonna win because I said in the predictions we're gonna win.
Yeah,
and then
the
we're going live. We're going then we're going live after the game. The caveat is that I'm going to put the StreamYard link in the description. So if you're in the chat, you could click on it and it'll bring you into our little waiting room. And I could pull you right on to the stream. All I got to do is click one button to put you on, and I just have to click one button to remove you. So if you don't have to, I mean, I could get rid of Logan and then I could add him back.
Come on,
I'm just saying, it's that easy. So I'm just putting the word out there. But if you don't have to turn your camera on or nothing, there's like a setting that you don't have to turn your camera on if you don't want to, or you don't think you have a cool setup or whatever. Or you could fly in with your camera on. We're gonna be having people on, kind of like talk radio. You're gonna come on, give your point. If there's people in the queue, you could say your piece, and then we'll get the next person on. We're going to try to be more interactive than just the chat, which we really do love. We like that StreamYards, you could just pull people's chats up, which is cool, but we're going to get people involved physically, kind of half physically. So that should be fun tomorrow. Catch us after the Charlotte game. And boys, great live stream tonight. Make sure before tomorrow and during the Charlotte game, let them know.